Bush and Clinton. The campaign gets nastier with questions about patriotism. In Moscow, Gorbachev. Clinton to provide them. Clinton, for his part, was not amused. NBC's Andrea Mitchell sorts this out for us tonight. Andrea?
Tom, if possible, the campaign has gotten even uglier now that the president has questioned Bill Clinton's patriotism. Clinton called Bush's attack pathetic, the result of Bush's decline in the polls.
I don't know. No, I just think he's apparently desperate.
Bush said he might have more to say on the issue soon, but...
I thought I expressed what's on my heart last night pretty well.
On Larry King's show last night, Bush suggested that there was something wrong about Clinton's anti-war activity in the 60s and a trip he took to Moscow as a graduate student.
Larry, I don't want to tell you what I really think because I don't have the facts. I don't have the facts. But to go to Moscow 1 year after Russia crushed Czechoslovakia, not remember who you saw, I really think the answer is level with the American people.
Bush also slammed Clinton for taking part in anti-war demonstrations in England.
I cannot for the life of me understand mobilizing demonstrations and demonstrating against your own country, no matter how strongly you feel when you're in a foreign land.
On Tuesday, Clinton told Phil Donahue he had only gone to a few anti-war rallies. He was irritated when pressed for details about his anti-war activity.
That's a load of bull. I was opposed to it. I was on record opposed to it. Early on, I never denied it. I said I was not a big organizer of anti-war activities.
Clinton said he organized nothing but a teach-in.
I was at the American Embassy, and I went to a group of Americans who were demonstrating in front of the American Embassy one day, and I participated in that.
But in his 1969 letter to the ROTC commander, Clinton said he organized Americans in England for demonstrations. And a Georgetown University priest active in the peace movement wrote that Clinton was one of the organizers of the embassy protest, who invited him to open the rally with a prayer. Today, Clinton supporters accuse Bush of a smear campaign. Senator Bill Bradley of New Jersey, a Rhodes Scholar who also traveled to Moscow, said Bush was guilty of McCarthyism.
What does the president imply? That we were unpatriotic to go? That anybody who has a student who traveled to Russia is unpatriotic? What hogwash?
Polls show that Bush's previous attacks on Clinton over the draft have not taken hold with voters. Clinton aides don't think this latest attack will hurt either, but they are planning to poll on it to see whether a counterattack is necessary. Tom?
Thank you, Andrea. And as the candidates trade shots about their personal integrity, there are growing alarms about the integrity of something much more expensive, the nation's banks. Not yet on the savings and loan scale, but getting scary. NBC's chief economics correspondent is Irving R. Levine.
Soon after he took office 4 years ago, President Bush broke the news that it would cost U.S. taxpayers billions of dollars to rescue the savings and loan industry. Although they saw it coming, neither candidate in the '88 campaign warned voters because both parties shared blame for the S&L debacle. Now the specter of a huge new bailout of U.S. banks. 80 are now going broke, many more are in trouble. So far in this campaign, President Bush has steered clear of warning voters. Governor Clinton, who rarely mentions the problem, was asked about it by NBC News.
There are some banks that are in trouble in this country. If they fail, it will be costly for the bank insurance system.
Only Ross Perot has sounded an alarm.
Well, everybody in America just heard it. You got the $60 billion surprise coming up at the end of the year.
At the Bank Insurance Fund, denials that bank closings are being delayed to avoid an election issue.
That's absolutely not true. We continue to close banks as they become insolvent.
After the election, starting in mid-December, a new law prevents any further delay in closing the banks that are going broke. A new study claims that of the nation's 12,000 banks, 2,000 are dying or near death. the cost to taxpayers of the bank closings will be staggering, as much as $100 billion to protect depositors' savings, resulting in a much bigger deficit and a headache for whoever wins the White House. Also, a nasty surprise for depositors with accounts over the $100,000 insured limit.
This time, some uninsured depositors will not be fully protected. People are going to howl because they're going to be angry, and they're going to say nobody told them this was going to happen.
The biggest blow, though, may be to the U.S. economy. Bank failures could further undermine consumer confidence and delay any real recovery. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, the White House.
And in keeping with the season, the Senate today passed and sent to the President a $27 billion tax bill, which was dead on arrival. This bill repeals most luxury taxes, and it offers tax breaks for investing in the inner cities, but it also contains several minor tax increases, so the President won't sign it. The Nightly News continues in a moment. Gorbachev and Yeltsin, two Russian heavyweights, battling each other now in the streets of Moscow.
Draw from the facts. There's a way to maintain regularity without drugs. It starts here. A high-fiber diet, which can include Kellogg's All-Bran, an excellent source of wheat bran fiber, may help you stay regular, drug-free. And there's a lot to be said for that, naturally. A high-fiber diet on Kellogg's All-Bran for drug-free regularity.
Heinz home-style gravy is made like your homemade.
Can't be as good as mine.
Or mine.
But we use a homemade recipe.
Delicious.
Mercy, it's every bit as good as hers.
Heinz home-style gravy.
After examining, testing, it's a fact. You can buy new Preparation H hydrocortisone cream with the maximum strength available without a prescription to relieve problem itch. New Preparation H hydrocortisone cream. Prescription strength without a prescription.
Of course, there's no love lost between Russian President Boris Yeltsin and former Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, and now their feud has escalated. Yeltsin is landlord for Gorbachev's foundation, and today he locked the doors. NBC's Bob Abernathy reports from Moscow tonight.
Armed police stood guard outside the foundation, and some rooms had been sealed inside. When Gorbachev arrived, he was furious. He accused the government of treating him like a spy.
I am ashamed for the Russian authorities, ashamed for Russia, ashamed for all of us.
Earlier this week, Gorbachev accused Yeltsin of not doing his job. Yeltsin replied by evicting the Gorbachev Foundation from its building. Gorbachev can still rent a little space there, but he has been punished.
It's an act of political revenge.
Gorbachev and his foundation called the eviction high-handed, authoritarian, and anti-democratic.
They are trying to shut Gorbachev up, but that's just funny and hopeless.
Gorbachev's problems go well beyond Yeltsin and office space. He's also on a collision course with Russia's highest court and with its Minister of Justice.
He's a lawbreaker, and what is more, a malicious lawbreaker.
The Constitutional Court wants Gorbachev to testify in a case involving the former Communist Party. Gorbachev has refused twice, charging it's a political trial. The government has refused to let Gorbachev leave the country, and the Minister of Justice today threatened to arrest him.
If he carries on this way, we are fully within our constitutional rights in taking any means necessary to ensure that he appears before the courts.
But Gorbachev says he will never testify.
Nothing will make me change my position.
Stay tuned. Bob Abernathy, NBC News, Moscow.
As for Yeltsin, his troubles go far beyond Gorbachev. Economic decline and organized crime are two of the biggest worries in his country. So today, Yeltsin ordered the creation of a special high-tech anti-crime police unit. Drug production is already a growth industry in 7 former Soviet republics. These traffickers eventually could rival South American cartels. NBC's John Miller reports on this new drug threat.
In Moscow, narcotics agents move in on suspected drug traffickers. It is not unlike scenes played out every day by police from New York to L.A.
The drugs here, principally heroin and marijuana, are coming from Russia's own backyard. 7 republics of what used to be the Soviet Union have seen a dramatic increase in the production of narcotics. In Central Asia, regions formerly under Soviet control have become a fledgling golden triangle.
Over the last few years, we've seen the amount of land under opium poppy cultivation expand between 3- and 10-fold throughout that region.
The reasons for the upsurge have to do with the difficult evolution of democracy. The element of fear of the KGB and harsh Soviet justice is gone. It's now simple economics. The poppy and marijuana are a fast cure for poverty.
We found that in the last few years, narcotics have become really one of the only readily available hard currency earners that these republics have.
Land that would generate 40,000 rubles from cotton can make 2.5 million rubles with poppies. In the hills, the local police officer lives among the villagers, has no backup and no telephone.
How can you imagine him combating drug crimes in the area where nearly all the population of that village is involved in illicit growing of opium?
This is the Brighton Beach section of New York City, home to a growing Russian community, also the headquarters of the Russian mob. Drug Enforcement Administration analysts who have worked in Russia say the Russian mob here is already angling to become the new drug cartel.
The ability for them, because of the established contacts that they have in the criminal environment in Russia and in other Commonwealth states, would only make it more beneficial for them to deal with their own people.
A senior U.S. intelligence official told NBC News that the reason the U.S. is so worried about the southern Muslim republics has little to do with democracy and a lot to do with the fear of a new flood of heroin. Tom?
Thanks, John. In economic news tonight, the latest government figures show retail sales were up in September. They were slightly better than expected. And on Wall Street, stocks closed higher today for the first time this month. And trading was heavy.
Hi, I'm Brand Central Associate Gordon Little, and it's Sears Days.
Our biggest Sears Days ever, with great values throughout the store. Right now, get a terrific price on this large capacity Kenmore washer, just $249. Matching dryer, just $199. You save $60 on the pair. And this Kenmore 18 cubic foot top mount refrigerator is only $429.
All at Sears Brand Central now.
So hurry into Sears Days.
I'm on the road every day of the week, making over a dozen stops along my route, so I know the value of good brakes. I've got a lot of little lives depending on them. And when I'm out on the road with my family, our lives depend on good brakes. That's why I depend on Meineke.
At Meineke, we do brakes, and we do them right. We analyze the whole system, pinpoint the problem, and fix it, period.
No matter why you're on the road, you can depend on brakes from Meineke. I do.
When I was little, I was always getting caught with my hand in the cookie jar. And I still love sweet things, like Sunsweet pitted prunes. So you see, nothing's changed, except my cookie jar.
We've heard some of you are waiting for a Rice-A-Roni with a bit less salt. Well, here you go. Introducing a Rice-A-Roni with a third less salt and lots of great taste. Good thing there's plenty to go around.
The San Francisco treat.
America close up tonight. Choosing a president means reviewing the record, of course, a candidate's priorities and accomplishments. Last night we took a look at how Bill Clinton governs Arkansas. Well, tonight, NBC's John Cochran on how George Bush has handled two key areas, foreign policy and the domestic economy.
We've changed the world, and now let's use that same energy and that same enthusiasm and that same vision to change the United States of America.
He makes it sound as though the next 4 years will be different.
The same leadership that changed the world, now let's make America better and renewed.
But Bush has always been cautious about change, even in his strongest field, foreign affairs. When he came to the presidency, he had wide experience overseas. Yet he did not have a policy for dealing with Moscow.
We're making a prudent review, and I will be ready to discuss that with the Soviets when we are ready.
When the Berlin Wall fell, one of the most compelling events of the 20th century, Bush would not permit himself to express elation. He didn't want to embarrass Mikhail Gorbachev. Bush had decided that Gorbachev was a sincere reformer and, like Bush, a cautious man. So Bush was slow to change horses when Gorbachev's headstrong rival appeared, Boris Yeltsin. In foreign policy, Bush fell into a pattern. Move slowly, then, when criticized, act decisively, as when he worked out a nuclear arms deal with Yeltsin. It was the same in Panama. After Bush was criticized for refusing to help Panamanian soldiers overthrow Manuel Noriega, he ordered the invasion that resulted in Noriega's capture. In Iraq, Bush thought he could get Saddam Hussein to act responsibly by cajoling and rewarding him. It didn't work. But when Saddam invaded Kuwait, Bush made a fast recovery. With Margaret Thatcher urging him to get tough, Bush led the coalition that would defeat, though not destroy, Saddam. In the middle of the Gulf crisis, Bush faced a budget crisis. In order to get Congress to accept spending controls, Bush was forced to renege on his promise to stop new taxes. Because this infuriated so many voters, Bush now says it was a mistake.
I was wrong.
Ironically, many economists believe it was actually a worthy attempt to deal with the budget deficit.
I think the budget deal was good substantively. It wasn't very big, but it did lower the budget deficit a little bit below where it would have been otherwise.
Victory in the Gulf War made Bush enormously popular. It was his best chance to make Congress sit up and pay attention to his economic plan for overcoming the recession. But he had no plan. Eventually, in his State of the Union address this year and at the Republican convention, Bush did come up with modest proposals for the economy. But many voters seem to have stopped listening. Those closest to him still say the president believes the economy will improve soon, that the government can help in small ways, but that the important thing is still to do no harm. That is a perfectly respectable conservative philosophy. But with voters demanding change, he feels he can no longer afford to campaign on what he really believes in. John Cochran, NBC News, the White House.
Tomorrow night, I'll be talking with voters in Peoria as NBC Nightly News travels to a key Midwestern state, Illinois.
Now that Murata has changed to Muratec, you'll be seeing our new name pop up in offices everywhere. Well, at least you can go home and get away from it. Uh-oh. Introducing the Muratec Home Fax. The latest product of Murata technology.
Guess which of these fruits, ounce for ounce, has the most vitamins and minerals? Yep, the California prune.
Sweet, delicious California prunes. Find out how good they really are.
If you suffer from awful sinus attacks, try Dristan Sinus. Unlike these, Dristan Sinus has a decongestant and the modern pain reliever ibuprofen to relieve sinus pain, all without drowsiness. Dristan Sinus, the face of relief today.
Every presidential election in the 20th century has had enormous implications for America and the world. Through it all, Merrill Lynch has understood those implications. And we continue to use that understanding to help you shape your future as we move forward together.
I dreaded this visit to the doctor. I had stomach problems. You know, more chalky medicine to take. I mean, just getting it down is... But what my doctor told me about really blew my mind. New Mylanta gel caps.
Introducing the antacid with absolutely no chalky taste. New Mylanta gel caps. Potent antacid relief now in an easy-to-swallow gel cap. New Mylanta gel caps.
My doctor said Mylanta.
There's a tentative settlement tonight in the machinist strike against USAir. It includes temporary wage cuts. If the union members ratify it, they could be back at work by Sunday. In other news today, the search is over now for victims in the wreckage of Sunday's cargo plane crash into that Amsterdam apartment building. 50 bodies recovered. so the final death toll may not be as high as first believed. Hard to believe, but in Chicago, the Schwinn Company, a name synonymous with American bicycles for more than a century, Schwinn has filed for bankruptcy, foreign competition, and a bad economy. Another kind of economic reality is changing the California way of life. Budget cuts are squeezing many once wealthy school systems. More on this from NBC's Diana Karicki.
In San Francisco last weekend, 2,000 parents, teachers, and business people got together to paint the public schools.
It's like painting half of the Golden Gate Bridge, all in this weekend.
No way there's enough money in the education budget to pay for this kind of maintenance.
The politicians we voted for should be down there helping out too, because that's why we voted them in. They promised us good schools, but they didn't provide them.
Fresh paint can't even begin to cover the cracks in California's school system. This year's budget effectively cuts $1 billion from public schools, meaning this once golden system now spends $900 less per child than the national average. Principal Pat Aramendia's high school budget is a nightmare.
$52,000 for the whole school. That's for library books, textbooks, Xerox machines, paper, pencil, frogs for biology, clay for ceramics, everything. It is $34.60 per student. Just doesn't go very far.
It can barely buy one textbook. The crunch for California schools is that state funds are capped just as enrollment keeps going up. Classes in this school have 34, 35 kids, more than one teacher can easily handle. Average class size in California is now the largest in the nation. In Los Angeles, teachers are so overwhelmed they wear black ribbons. Kids know what that means.
To show the death of education, there's not enough money in the schools that we can get the supplies that we need.
Now we're talking about basic needs. We're talking about the very simple things of paper, pencils, and books.
Forget about having enough money for computers.
The children of California better be smarter than their peers on a national level, because equipment-wise, technologically-wise, they won't be on an even playing field with other youngsters.
This year's budget chips away even more at California's broken-down school system. Diana Karicki, NBC News, Los Angeles.
They've now named the panel for the Sunday presidential debate approved by both the Bush and Clinton campaigns, and Jim Lehrer of Public Broadcasting will be the single moderator, joined by some reporters. John Chancellor's been looking at the debate rules, and he has some thoughts for us tonight in commentary.
Tom, first debate Sunday night. Here's a viewer's guide. Clinton defends. He must hold on to his lead, look presidential, and not blather on and on, which for him is a big task. Bush attacks. He must shift the poll numbers 8 or 10 points in his favor, and that's an even bigger task. Republican strategy. Bush develops a new line of attack on Sunday night, which makes headlines on Monday. On Tuesday night, Dan Quayle continues that line of attack in his debate, which makes headlines on Wednesday. Bush picks it up on Thursday night in that debate and gets headlines on Friday. 5 days of great potential. It is George Bush's big chance, and maybe his only chance. Why is Perot in it? Clinton wants him in because Perot's message hurts Bush. Bush wants Perot on stage because it's easier to look presidential when you're attacked by 2 other candidates. Why is the press in it? The reporters will ask nasty personal questions. The candidates themselves won't have to. Democratic propaganda. All Clinton needs, they say, is a draw. Truth. We hope our guy annihilates Bush. Republican propaganda. They say Clinton is a great debater who will do very well. Truth. Bush is at least as good a debater as Clinton. Context of the debates, the Republicans lost the presidential election in September, so they want to hold another presidential election in October, and the debates give them an opportunity for a fresh start. If George Bush has something new to say, this might work. Tom?
And we'll both see all of these folks there.
We will indeed.
Sunday night.
Tom.
St.
Sunday
Louis.
night.
Okay, fine. Also, this report tonight about the infamous Nazi death camp doctor, Joseph Mengele. Turns out the Justice Department has disclosed that Mengele was taken into U.S. custody in Germany twice in 1945 and then released by mistake.
Why is the Honda Accord the best-selling car in America? Maybe it's the reliability. Maybe it's the value. Maybe it's the interior.
nothing like it. I mean, Rusty Slade was an ornery sort. Always ate his old bran flakes just for fiber. But one morning, I gave him Kellogg's new complete bran flakes. Weren't the same. More than fiber, they had whole grain wheat. Flakes were new too, crispy, crunchy. Why, that Kellogg's complete bran flakes even had a better nutty taste. It was all so good, made Rusty smile. Almost. New Kellogg's complete bran flakes. Fiber, and then some.
Hi. These days, you can have a pizza delivered in 30 minutes.
If the driver doesn't get lost.
Right, Mama. But in just 8 minutes, you can take Popoli, Italian bread shell, made with fresh mozzarella and Parmesan cheeses, garlic, and imported olive oil. Then add your favorite toppings and create your magnificent pizza. Crispy outside, soft inside, for less than any pizzeria.
And you don't have to tip a delivery boy.
Good point, Mama. Remember, only you can top Popoli.
Hello? Sorry, we don't deliver.
Heinz homestyle gravy is made like your homemade.
Can't be as good as mine. Or mine.
But we use a homemade recipe.
Delicious. Mercy, it's every bit as good as hers.
Heinz homestyle gravy.
I try to ignore my sensitive teeth, but they hurt.
Sensodyne helps stop the pain that can make you stop brushing, could lead even to tooth loss. And now, Sensodyne has fluoride.
Fluoride, great.
New Sensodyne helps stop the pain of sensitive teeth.
Remember that Russian sailor who built his own boat, raced it solo across the Atlantic Ocean, the perfect expression of freedom, only to be caught by the U.S. bureaucracy? Well, NBC's Gary Matsumoto tonight picks up his story.
For Viktor Yazikov, there have been so many disappointments, so many things that have gone wrong in the last 4 months that it was hard to believe that something was finally going right. It was 4 months ago to the day when Viktor's wife Ludmila waved goodbye to him at the start of his solo crossing of the Atlantic. The yacht race from England to Newport, Rhode Island began an odyssey that Yazikov never anticipated. He sailed for America without the proper visa. A British race official told him it would be waiting for him. It wasn't. Ever since, Yazikov has been adrift in red tape. He was stranded in Rhode Island, his wife in England. The reunion at New York's Kennedy Airport yesterday. Yazikov's friends made this happen. A personal crusade to get immigration to review the case.
Thank you very much. It's just the rule of the sea. Sailors help sailors, and it's nothing to do with nationalities.
And we never thought ever that it would come to this until just the last week.
Over the next 6 months, businessman Joe Brito plans to help Yazikov start a boat-building business back in Russia.
We're going to see if we can negotiate something to at least get him a little bit of seed money to get him started.
The trip from New York to Rhode Island was Ludmila's introduction to America. The Yazikovs will winter here on the shores of Narragansett Bay, preparing to sail next spring for their home on the Black Sea. Gary Matsumoto, NBC News, New York.
Occasionally, one turns out right. That's Nightly News for this Thursday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night from Peoria, the industrial Midwest.
Just ahead on your 24-hour news source, a body found in Tama County.
A man dies a fiery death, and authorities say it's suicide. I'm Jim Strickland. The story next.
A sign of the chilly times in central Iowa. Temperatures some 20 degrees cooler than normal.
And cold air will continue to spill into the Midwest tonight, but a warmer weekend ahead. We'll have details coming up.
And rain and drizzle hamper the harvest effort in central Iowa. I'm Courtney Maxwell. I'll have that story coming up in a Live Eye report.
Plus the latest on the alleged kidnapping of an Indianola teenager, all coming up next.
Stop what you're doing and listen. After 22 years, John's Waterbeds is going out of business. They must clear their inventory now. Buy the best. Lane, Arbeck, Oakwood. At John's Waterbeds, the prices of waterbed accessories have been slashed. There's never been a better time for you to buy your dream waterbed. John's Waterbeds going out of business sale is going on now.
John. Some call him tough because he won't toe the Washington line. Fiercely independent because he stands up for what he believes. Iowa's Chuck Grassley. In 1990, the Washington power brokers decided to push through a major tax increase. Chuck Grassley voted no. bucking the special interests and the Washington establishment. Chuck Grassley opposed the tax deal that raised the gas tax and increased taxes on hardworking Iowa families. Chuck Grassley, fiercely independent, like Iowa.
You can tell it's election time. Elaine Baxter is slinging the mud. The Des Moines Register has pleaded for a campaign on the issues, a campaign like Jim Ross Lightfoot's. The Register wrote, Lightfoot said the real issues at stake in the district are health care, agricultural policy, and economic development. But Elaine attacks to hide her own record of wasteful spending, raising taxes, and missed votes. Elaine Baxter, politics as usual, from a professional politician.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
These woods in Tama County, the site of one man's horrifying death. Police have yet to confirm who he is. And winter makes an early visit to parts of the Midwest. Flurries for some, rain for others, and downright cold for everyone. We'll have more on the weather in just a moment, but first an investigation continues into a gruesome death.
It happened in Tama County. Authorities are now trying to confirm the identity of the man whose body was found torched with gasoline and chained to a tree. News Center 13's Jim Strickland has been following this story. He has the latest. Jim?
Well, John, pathologist Dr. Francis Garrity told me just a few moments ago he's convinced that this is a case of suicide and that it was the fire that killed the man. He was not killed or shot or anything like that and then burned. Authorities believe they know who the victim is, but they're not ready to say for sure. Authorities had been searching for the owner of a pickup truck which was abandoned in this area days before. About 300 yards away, they found the remains of a man chained to a tree, his body charred beyond recognition. A gasoline can was found nearby.
It's hard to understand how someone could be attached to a tree and commit suicide, but in this particular case, with the evidence at the scene, it appears to be a suicide, a self-burning.
There's been no positive ID to confirm that the owner of the pickup truck is the man found burned to death. Fingerprints from the truck owner are being compared with those of the body. Authorities say the body had been there for a couple of days. Local residents don't know what to make of this case.
I know, and they said he was chained to the tree now, and then that don't make sense. Whether if he was trying to commit suicide, that he would go about chained to a tree.
Whether somebody's trying to get revenge back, could be awful hard tying yourself to a tree or chain yourself to a tree.
It's hoped an identity on the victim will be released later tonight.
Jim, what do police know about the owner of the pickup that was found near the body?
Well, they do know, John, that the owner of the pickup is a 33-year-old Cedar Rapids man. He has been in trouble with the police within the last couple of days. Police will not release exactly what the charges were in this case, and I'm also told that that man was in a despondent state of mind. But again, we're not trying to draw any conclusions here. Police hopefully will have an identity to release for us later on tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim Strickland. Kim?
A Des Moines man accused of assaulting a 13-year-old girl making his first court appearance today. 32-year-old Cornell Wright is charged with abducting and sexually assaulting the girl August 22nd. The child claims Wright forced her into his car on 6th Avenue, drove her to a different location, assaulted her, and then let her out of the car. Wright was arrested a few days ago in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's now being held in the Polk County Jail. Still no suspect in that alleged kidnapping attempt just outside Norwalk last night. This is the car that a 15-year-old boy told authorities his alleged abductor forced him into and wrecked a short time later. The boy claims he was home alone when the unknown man broke in and forced him into the family automobile. Officials say this investigation is continuing. One injury after a 3-car accident on I-80 this afternoon. Traffic was backed up for quite some time in the westbound lane. The Highway Patrol reports that a stalled car in the right lane caused another to stop and a third to hit both. A 66-year-old Des Moines man was taken to Methodist Medical Center for treatment. No charges were filed.
A fire this morning in Des Moines, southwest of downtown. Smoke spread over the downtown area from the blaze at Pitt Des Moines, a plant on Southwest 9th that makes steel structures. A spark from a piece of machinery may have caused the fire. One person received minor injuries and the plant was evacuated. Employees have been told to return to work tomorrow. Much of the nation's midsections shivering tonight. Cold Canadian air making early October feel more like November. Here in the metro, strong winds made falling temperatures feel even colder. I meant hats and gloves for those heading out for their morning run or walk, but could have been worse. And here's why. Look at what folks in Topeka, Kansas woke up to this morning. The flurries didn't really amount to much, though. The flakes melting as soon as they hit the ground, but I'm sure there were quite a few people depressed a little bit over that.
Yeah, you look outside right now, you know, the sky looks like it could dump buckets
Looks
of
similar
snow.
here.
It sure does.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
Hope not.
Let's check in with Gary.
Well, we hope not anyway. It looks cold in Topeka, and as we peer out the window here, it looks mighty chilly in the capital city. Look at those steely, cold, gray clouds. Even though they look cold, actually they'll help us stay a little warmer than we might be as long as they stay over the top of us. Here's the reason why. Looking at this temperature map, temps will stay in the 30s and 40s across Iowa thanks to the clouds holding what little heat we have down here at the surface. Out to the west where the skies will break up somewhat, temps will fall into the 20s across parts of Nebraska, and that dotted line inside of that indicates the freeze line where freezing temperatures will be expected toward morning. I'll be back in just a few minutes to tell you when the clouds will disappear and when we'll finally warm things up around here, and it should happen sometime this weekend. I'll be more with that in just a couple minutes.
Thanks, Gary. Colder temperatures and the prospect of rain have central Iowa farmers more than a little worried tonight.
If the precipitation doesn't stop, they won't be able to get into their fields to finish the bean harvest or to start harvesting corn.
News Center 13's Courtney Maxwell joins us now live from the Alba farm near Ankeny. What's the weather like out there, Courtney?
Well, John and Kim, the drizzle has stopped, but earlier rains make it difficult for farmers to get out in their fields. I'm here at the All-Bran farm. Mike and Norm are a father and son team, and they farm north of Ankeny. They still have 10 acres of soybeans to pick. They haven't even started on corn. They say if the weather doesn't cooperate, there's some crops that may not be able to get picked at all. Today, Mike All-Bran showed us his corn.
Well, there's an ear right there that's had a corn borer in the shank. It's just a matter of time before that would fall off.
2 weeks ago, Mike and his father Norman were harvesting soybeans. He says September rains and few days of dry weather have taken its toll on crops.
We can't wait for it to get real dry because this is already, we're going into the second week of October. And there's been years we've been done by the middle of October with the corn, and we're not even started yet.
The corn and beans you see behind me are ready to be harvested, and this farm equipment was out as recently as last night, but it will sit idle until the weather improves. Rain is the immediate enemy, but snow is on the way, and it could be here within 2 weeks.
Well, if you can pick corn in standing snow, as long as it's standing pretty decent, when it's still in the field and not in the bin, you know, it's still at risk.
The All-Bran say they hope to get into their fields by this weekend, and they hope the crops aren't too wet. John and Kim?
Courtney, with all the weather problems they've had thus far this year, how do they think the crop's going to do?
Well, with early drought and summer hail and fall rains, they say the weather really has taken its toll, but they're really surprised at how well their crops look, and they think they'll have a pretty good yield.
A little mixed bag of everything thus far this year. Thanks, Courtney Maxwell, reporting for us. When Iowa farmers finally get into harvest full swing, they'll be combining a record corn crop.
While that's good for filling the bins, it doesn't do much for the pocketbook. USDA pegs Iowa's best in the nation corn crop at nearly 1.77 billion bushels. That's an average of 135 bushels an acre. Iowa farmers will also harvest a big soybean crop, 338 million bushels for an average of 42 bushels an acre, second behind Illinois. A Minnesota man sentenced for the murder of a former Urbandale resident. Details when we return.
2 years ago, a West Des Moines city employee was killed on the job. Now his widow is filing a lawsuit.
And while 19-year-old Jason Strode lies in critical condition, friends and family prepare to protest Broadlawns Hospital.
Hy-Vee puts a new spin on old-fashioned service and savings with Founders Month specials like these. Fresh Bartlett pears, just 59 cents a pound. Chicken of the Sea chunk light tuna, 48 cents. Richelieu mushrooms, 2 for 88 cents. And 12-piece homestyle deli chicken, just $5.99. For low prices all day, every day, shop Hy-Vee. And low prices.
At Menards, you'll always save on quality Glidden paint. Like Spread Satin, America's favorite wall paint, now just $9.59 a gallon. Durable spread enamel for walls and trim is only $13.29 a gallon. And Glidden waterproof basement paint is now just $10.99 a gallon. Plus, let Menards color computer match your color sample to the exact Glidden finish in seconds. Paint with Glidden and save at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
My heating system, it's down there purring like a kitten. Things solid as a rock. Never think about it.
The best time to think about your heating system is now. So call your Carrier dealer today. We're the guys who know best when it comes to making it better inside.
Call Bell Brothers and take advantage of rebates of up to $1,000 with a qualifying Carrier heat pump. For details, call Bell Brothers, the energy professionals.
Picture this. It's Yonkers' anniversary sale. Picture a spectacular store-wide sale that comes just once a year. Right now, save on items for you, your family, and home.